You are a police officer in Brazil's special forces, but when your daughter faced injustice, you finally understood what unfairness truly feels like. Only then did you realize how tough it is to seek justice nowadays, because the roots of injustice aren't always just one person or a single group. Sometimes, it's an entire ecosystem of trouble, a web of collusion between government officials and major financial corporations. This man's name is Mizu, a high-ranking officer at Brazil's Dai Police Department. He divorced his wife Isabel, and the thing he regrets most is how it affected their daughter Alice. When he learned that the one thing Alice wanted was to watch a soccer match live at a stadium, he didn't hesitate. He took a day off and even had a jersey custom made just for her. He asked Isabel to help take a photo of the two of them as a keepsake. Then, he hurriedly pulled Alice along and rushed to the stadium. In Brazil, soccer isn't just a sport. It's practically a national religion, and traffic jams on match days are legendary. To avoid being late for his daughter's long-awaited match, Mizu quickly decided that they should get out of the car and walk. The stadium was just minutes away. After getting out, Mizu held Alice's tiny hand tightly and walked between the gaps of parked cars toward the stadium. Suddenly, he heard a loud sound and felt Alice's hand slowly slip from his. He looked down and saw a wound on her chest. Panic swallowed him whole. After a stunned moment, he realized what had happened. He frantically picked her up and sprinted toward the nearest hospital. Staff rushed to call nurses, doctors, and paramedics. Alice was taken away for emergency treatment, but to his shock, he soon discovered that the hallway she was taken to didn't lead to an operating room at all, but to a waiting area full of patients waiting for treatment. Mizu hurriedly found Alice still lying on a stretcher. All they had done was hook up a single IV bottle. Then the doctor simply said, "My condolences," and walked away. Not exactly the bedside manner you hope for. He never imagined that even as his daughter lost consciousness, no doctor would step forward to perform surgery. He simply couldn't understand it, nor accept it. His ex-wife rushed to the hospital upon hearing the news. She cried, screamed, and demanded that Mizu give her daughter back. When she learned Alice hadn't survived, she collapsed in Mizu's arms and fainted. The police department where Mizu worked had been investigating a major case. Their main target was the current governor, Sandro. At first, Mizu thought it was far removed from his personal life. But now, reality had kicked down his door. Rumors suggested Governor Sandro was involved in a massive corruption case in the public healthcare sector. They said he intentionally slashed the government health budget, causing many hospitals to shut down. Mizu and his partner Negao received a warrant to storm the governor's mansion and arrest Sandro. They found him groggy and brought him back for questioning. Facing accusations, Sandro acted completely unfazed, as if corruption charges were part of his daily vitamin intake. He claimed the issues were caused by the previous governor and had nothing to do with him. Sandro was quickly cleared of charges and released. He had not only top-tier lawyers, but also a powerful political faction that lived by the motto, "Share the glory, share the blame." Even while detained, his meals were fit for royalty. When he was released, he stood before the station and boldly announced his plan to run in the upcoming presidential election, aiming to become Brazil's next president. When Negao learned that Alice had been shot, he rushed to the scene that very night to investigate. Since the shooting happened on the street, the firing angle and bullet source were impossible to determine. Capturing the shooter would be extremely difficult. But for his beloved niece, he vowed to solve the case no matter the cost. At this moment, Mizu finally calmed down and began to re-examine the chain of events. He realized that catching the shooter wasn't the real priority anymore. He wasn't as fixated on capturing the culprit quickly. The shooter may have caused Alice's injury, but if she had received proper treatment, she would have survived. The real killer was the hospital. Their failure to act cost Alice her life. He suddenly understood. The shooter didn't take her life. The system did, because the hospital didn't treat her in time. Alice died. After realizing this, Mizu started thinking more deeply. Why on earth had no doctor stepped in to save her? To get to the bottom of it, he went to City Hall, where Governor Sandro was about to hold a press conference. He hoped Sandro could give him some kind of explanation. But as soon as he reached the gate, he realized things were nowhere near as simple as he'd imagined. Outside, a huge crowd was protesting Sandro's way of governing, already clashing with riot police trying to keep order. Shouts and slogans filled the streets, and even inside the press room, many reporters showed their dissatisfaction with Sandro, standing up one after another to demand he answer for the accusations made against him. Mizu didn't join the protesters. He slipped through the crowd, ready to step into City Hall. But just as he emerged from the crowd, someone smacked him straight in the head with a baton. Immediately, riot police dragged him down and went to town on him, beating him senseless. Luckily, a flaming bottle of gasoline flew in and forced the officers to back off, breaking the stalemate between the protesters and the police. Mizu, as a senior special operations officer, wasn't about to let a bunch of regular beat cops walk all over him. He burst into action, unleashing everything he had, and started pounding the officers who were attacking the protesters. Someone even managed to film him taking on the riot squad to protect the crowd. The police quickly fired tear gas rounds. Those things work great on unarmed civilians. And Mizu took a direct hit at close range. In agony, barely able to move and choking on gas, he suddenly saw a gas mask drop quietly in front of him. To Mizu, that mask was like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. He grabbed it at once and quickly pulled it over his head. When he flipped the switch on the mask, the feeling was completely different. Suddenly, his mind was clear, sharper than ever. He charged straight into the police line and started punching and kicking non-stop. He even snatched a gun from one of the officers. After that, he no longer cared about the cops still busy arresting protesters behind him. He climbed up a pole, making his way toward the upper floors of City Hall. At this time, Sandro had finished the press conference and was preparing to leave, escorted by his bodyguards. The sound of breaking glass caused by Mizu quickly reached their ears. To ensure Sandro's safety, the bodyguards hurriedly led the governor into an office so he could temporarily hide there. They never expected Mizu to find them so quickly. Bodyguards are basically walking arrows, and wherever they are, the governor is never far away. So Mizu didn't hesitate. He fired tear gas rounds toward the guards. After a fierce fight, the hallway suddenly fell silent. Then Mizu, wearing the gas mask, kicked open the office door and dragged the governor out from under the desk. He didn't ask a single question. He simply let his fists speak. Over this period of time, he had confirmed many things. The source of all the problems traced back to Sandro. His healthcare policies had caused a severe shortage of doctors, indirectly making him the mastermind behind Mizu's daughter's death. So even when Sandro quickly lost consciousness under the blows, Mizu's fists didn't stop. The murder of a governor and presidential candidate instantly became a top priority case for Brazil's police. The case was quickly handed over to the Dai Police Department. They had to find and capture Sandro's killer. Because of how serious the case was, the Dai team immediately brought in all the protesters arrested that night and began strict interrogations. Mizu also quickly returned to work after his leave. One of the arrested girls soon focused on him. She recognized that familiar silhouette from that night. After Mizu greeted his colleagues, he also quickly noticed the girl. He saw that the way she looked at him was unusual, and soon he realized she had recognized him. Mizu broke out in a cold sweat. He hadn't expected that what seemed like a flawless plan actually had a living witness. Then the chief appeared. He first assigned tasks to the officers, ordering everyone to work extra shifts to urgently hunt down the masked madman who had killed the governor. After the meeting, he personally checked in on Mizu, thanking him for putting aside his grief over his daughter's death to help solve such a major case. The chief had no idea that the masked lunatic they were chasing was actually the star detective standing right in front of him. Mizu solemnly promised the chief he would crack the case quickly. To give society a proper explanation, the first person he interrogated was the girl who kept secretly glancing at him. Her name was Nina. On the surface, she worked at a shop, but in reality, she was also a skilled computer hacker. Nina's mother was an accountant, imprisoned under suspicion of fraud. Nina believed her mother was innocent and had been framed. So she often joined protests, hoping to seek justice for her mother. She quickly realized Mizu's secret. She wrote down her iCloud account and password, deliberately hinting that she knew Mizu was the masked killer. Mizu instantly felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't believe something he thought flawless actually had a witness. Meanwhile, a group of young politicians were invited to dinner by financial tycoon Antero. They were all part of Sandro's faction. Now that Sandro was gone, they desperately needed a replacement. In the end, Antero chose a young man named Antonio to take Sandro's place and run for president in the upcoming election. Antonio was now officially their candidate, even though he was thrown into a life-or-death political race overnight. The publicity machine began rolling at full speed. To verify whether Nina was bluffing, Mizu quietly snuck into the evidence room to find Nina's phone. He remembered clearly. While he was being beaten by police, Nina had been filming the scene. If she had captured his face, that would be disastrous. He nervously opened her videos and watched them carefully. And sure enough, he spotted his own figure. When he returned to the office area, Nagao suddenly approached to check in. When Nagao realized one protester was missing from custody, he immediately asked where the boy was. Mizu didn't deny it. He admitted openly that he had released him. He explained that Parker hadn't seen the masked killer at all. He released Parker simply to observe Nagao's reaction. When he saw Nagao wasn't suspicious, Mizu then proceeded to release Nina as well. After leaving the station, Nina hurried back to her workplace. She never expected to be freed so quickly, so even when her curly-haired boss lectured her, she still smiled. After all, freedom is freedom. She even said she'd met a guardian angel today. Back at home, Mizu kept studying Nina's videos. He gradually realized that even though Sandro was responsible for Alice's death, he was only one culprit among many. A governor could never pass such a massive healthcare policy alone. There had to be others benefiting from it. Behind Sandro, there were likely multiple government officials, maybe even an entire faction. Just as he prepared to investigate further, the doorbell rang. It was his ex-wife, Isabel. Since his daughter had died in his arms, he couldn't bear to face her. No matter how much Isabel pleaded through the door, Mizu refused to open it. He wouldn't face her. Not until every enemy responsible was destroyed. That night, Nina worked the late shift. When she was walking home, Mizu suddenly appeared, startling her. Of course she was scared. She was the only person alive who knew he'd killed Sandro. So naturally, she feared he'd silence her. But after repeated reassurance, plus a little intimidation, she reluctantly got into his car. They stopped at a secluded spot. Mizu handed her a laptop, the one he took from Sandro's office, and asked her to inspect its contents. Nina, being a top-tier hacker, quickly calmed down and agreed to help. She searched through emails and files, but found nothing suspicious. Neither of them believed the laptop was clean. There had to be something hidden. So Nina searched again, and this time she found something ridiculous. Sandro frequently sent cute animal photos to certain government officials. Too cute. Suspiciously cute. No way a governor spends his day sending daily animal pics to subordinates. So Nina decoded them. And once the first photo was decrypted, a flood of hidden data poured onto the screen. Countless documents, transaction records, and accounting ledgers instantly appeared. Nina was stunned. She told Mizu, with her skills, she could absolutely clear her mother's name. The next day, Nina returned to her shop and ran into a cute boy she'd met before. His mother, a customer, came to thank Nina for protecting her son during the protests. Elsewhere, Antonio was being dressed by professional stylists. He didn't need to talk, didn't need to think. His job was simply to look good. Everything about him was carefully arranged. Antonio came from poverty, so his figure made for the perfect from rags to glory political story. After that, his team prepared a detailed presidential agenda. They crafted a backstory, then posted a photo collage of his childhood on social media. Almost immediately, public sympathy skyrocketed. Nina's hacking attack successfully restored her mother's financial records. Every penny accounted for. Everything had been manipulated, and she submitted proof to the authorities. Soon after, the police reopened the investigation. Nina was overjoyed. She and Mizu immediately began analyzing the remaining files. She discovered dozens of emails exchanged over the years between Sandro and industrialist Antero. They were deeply intertwined in political and economic interests. Even more shocking, bank transfer records revealed massive sums of money, gifting properties, and even paying off entire networks of officials. Their corruption ran far deeper than expected. Not at all something one person could pull off alone. It required an entire ecosystem. Mizu and Nina realized that Sandro was merely the visible tip of a massive conspiracy iceberg. To unravel this web, they needed to trace the money. Nina dug deeper, following transaction trails linking government budgets to private corporations, to offshore accounts, and straight back into the pockets of those in power. It was a giant loop of corruption. One hidden file in particular shocked them. Detailed records of health budget cuts, paired with luxury real estate purchases abroad. For every hospital shut down, another mansion appeared. All while people like Alice paid the price. Mizu clenched his fists in silence. This wasn't negligence. It was murder disguised as policy, and everyone at the top had blood on their hands. Meanwhile, the media was busy praising Antonio as the young hope of the nation. Every channel ran features about him rising from poverty, becoming a symbol of perseverance. It was a perfectly orchestrated rebranding campaign. One problem? None of it was his idea. He was just a puppet. But the public loved it. Some even called him the new face of Brazil. Nina continued to decode files late into the night. Eventually, she found something unusual. A private schedule document containing a list of confidential meetings. One name appeared repeatedly. Antero, the financial mogul. All paths pointed toward him. Mizu now understood. If Sandro was the knife, Antero was the hand holding it. He was the one truly orchestrating everything. But they were still missing evidence, linking him directly to the healthcare collapse. Without that, the case was just a puzzle with pieces missing. As they were preparing to dig deeper, Mizu received a call. His chief wanted him back at headquarters immediately. An important witness had provided new information. Mizu knew this was bad. A new witness meant the investigation was advancing toward the masked killer. Toward him. At the police station, the chief explained that a man had come forward claiming he'd seen the killer. He described the killer's build and movements. Details that sounded uncomfortably familiar. Mizu felt his stomach drop. But the witness was currently unconscious in the hospital due to injuries sustained during the protests. Mizu asked to see the witness later. The chief agreed, unaware of how dangerous that was. Meanwhile, Nina found another important clue. A hidden folder containing photos of meetings between Antero and foreign investors. One of the photos showed a suspicious contract signing. If decoded, it could be crucial evidence. Before she could continue, however, someone knocked loudly on her shop door. It was the police. Nina's heart nearly jumped out of her chest. She instantly thought they were coming to arrest her. But surprisingly, the officers only asked her to confirm a few details from the protest incident. They didn't know a thing about her collaboration with Mizu. Even so, she stayed on high alert. After the police left, she immediately phoned Mizu. He was already on his way to the hospital to visit the new witness. But if Mizu reached the witness first, there was only one possible outcome, and it wouldn't involve flowers and good wishes. Upon arriving at the hospital, Mizu calmly checked in with the nurse and entered the patient ward. He found the witness unconscious, attached to IV drips and breathing tubes. Just when Mizu was about to pull the plug, the witness's eyes suddenly snapped open. Mizu froze. The witness stared at him weakly, trying to speak. Mizu leaned in. The man whispered, "I know. Who killed him?" Mizu's heart pounded. But then the witness continued weakly. "It wasn't you. Mizu's eyes widened. The witness whispered again. The killer wore a mask, but his gait, his posture, it wasn't like yours. Mizu felt both relief and confusion. If it wasn't him, then who? Before he could ask more, a group of nurses rushed in. The witness's vitals dropped rapidly. Alarms blared. Mizu stepped back as doctors worked frantically. But minutes later, the patient flatlined. He was gone. A nurse glanced at Mizu and muttered, "At least he said what he needed to say." That sentence pierced Mizu's heart. On the way out, he reviewed the witness's final words. If the masked killer wasn't him, then someone else must have infiltrated the chaos. Someone with access. Someone powerful. Meanwhile, Nina finally cracked the encrypted photo. Lines of hidden text emerged from the pixels. The document revealed a secret project. A partnership between several government departments and Antero's company. The project's name was Operation Genome. It didn't sound like anything related to healthcare budgets. It sounded like something far more dangerous. She kept decoding. Her eyes widened further. It wasn't just about money. Operation Genome was secretly moving bioresearch funds into private accounts. And in exchange, Antero provided political control and influence. This went beyond corruption. It was systemic manipulation. When Mizu arrived back at headquarters, he wanted to look deeper into the file. But the chief suddenly called him into the office. The chief's tone was heavier than usual. He explained that higher authorities were putting pressure on them. The murder of a presidential candidate was too serious. They needed results, fast. And Mizu was one of the top officers expected to deliver. Mizu nodded calmly. On the outside, he was their best investigator. On the inside, he was the man they were hunting. It was a perfect storm. After the meeting, he stepped out to call Nina. But before he could dial, he heard a familiar voice behind him. Looking for someone? It was Nagao. His eyes were sharper than usual, watching Mizu carefully. Mizu felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Something about Nagao's expression had changed. He looked suspicious. Dangerously suspicious. Nagao stepped closer and lowered his voice. There's something you're not telling me, right? Mizu stayed silent. Nagao's next words made his blood run cold. I know who the masked man is. Mizu clenched his fists. Nagao leaned even closer and whispered, It's someone inside the department. And I'm going to find him. Mizu forced a calm smile, though his pulse doubled. Nagao had always been sharp, too sharp. One wrong move, and Mizu's entire facade would crumble. He needed to divert suspicion, fast. But before he could respond, a radio call summoned Nagao to the briefing room. Nagao gave Mizu one last lingering look, then walked away. Mizu exhaled, quietly but deeply. For now, he was safe. Barely. He rushed to a private corner and called Nina. She answered immediately, whispering, Mizu, we're in deeper trouble than we thought. She quickly explained the details about Operation Genome. It wasn't just corruption. It was coordinated theft. Millions funneled out under the guise of research. This time, Mizu felt genuine anger. Alice had died because of this chain of corruption. Her death wasn't an accident. It was a consequence. He clenched his jaw. Nina hesitated, then added softly, There's something else. About Antero. Mizu stiffened. He's planning something big, bigger than elections. Mizu's voice turned icy. Then we stop him, whatever it takes. Before Nina could respond, she heard footsteps. She whispered urgently, I have to go. Someone's here. The call ended abruptly. Mizu's grip tightened on his phone. He needed to find her. Fast. But just as he turned the corner, he bumped into the silver-haired officer. The man smiled coldly. Mizu, the chief wants to see you. His grip on Mizu's shoulder was unusually firm. Too firm. Mizu followed, expression neutral. But inside, warning bells were screaming. The chief sat behind his desk, fingers interlocked. He gestured for Mizu to sit. Mizu, let me be honest. That masked vigilante is out of control. He has destabilized the city and the government. We need to catch him, immediately. Mizu nodded slowly. He couldn't agree more, ironically. But the chief wasn't finished. We also think he had help. Someone smart. Someone tech-savvy. Someone young. Mizu's heart sank. We suspect it's a girl from the protests. A certain Nina. Mizu remained still, but his mind raced. If they found Nina, everything was over. The chief continued. We've sent officers to track her down. And Mizu, if you find her first, bring her straight to me. Mizu forced a polite smile. Of course, sir. He stood up and left quietly. But once out of sight, he broke into a sprint. He knew exactly where Nina would go when in danger. Her mother's prison. When Mizu arrived, Nina was already there, frantically speaking through the glass divider. Her mother looked terrified. Mizu approached quietly and tapped her shoulder. She nearly screamed. Mizu, they're after me, after us. He nodded. We need to leave, now. Nina hesitated, glancing at her mother. Her mother placed her hand on the glass. "Go," she mouthed silently. Tears welled in Nina's eyes, but she obeyed and followed Mizu out. Outside, sirens echoed in the distance. Officers were already approaching. Mizu grabbed Nina's hand. "Run!" They sprinted across the parking lot. Bullets suddenly whizzed past them. The silver-haired officer shouted, "Don't let them escape!" Mizu shoved Nina into cover. He fired back, accurate and fast. Despite his wounds, he fought like a man possessed. Nina covered her mouth, terrified. But Mizu shouted, "Get to the motorcycle!" She ran as Mizu provided cover fire. Officers kept shooting, closing in. Mizu dashed to the motorcycle, jumped on, and roared the engine to life. "Hold on tight," he yelled. Nina clung to him as they sped away. Sirens and shouts echoed behind them. The hunt had officially begun. The motorcycle shot onto the highway, weaving through cars at breakneck speed. Nina held on so tightly she could have snapped ribs. "I'm Mizu. Where are we going?" "Somewhere they won't look," he shouted over the wind. "Which is where?" Nina yelled back. "Somewhere I'd never go voluntarily." Nina blinked. "Your ex-wife's place?" Mizu didn't respond, which meant she'd guessed correctly. Minutes later, they screeched to a halt in front of Isabel's apartment building. Nina looked at him, horrified. "You really weren't joking." Mizu knocked. The door opened. Isabel froze mid-sentence. Her eyes went wide. "Mizu, why are you—" Before she could finish, a gunshot exploded behind them. "Inside!" Mizu shouted. He pushed Nina and Isabel into the apartment. Bullets shattered the hallway mirror. Nina screamed. Isabel ducked. Mizu flipped a table and used it as cover. More officers swarmed the hallway. "Stop shooting!" Isabel yelled. "No one listens during shootouts," Nina cried back. Mizu fired warning shots, forcing officers to retreat. He turned to the two terrified women. "We need to move, now." Isabel stared at him, furious and scared. "Mizu, what have you done?" He didn't answer. He grabbed her arm gently but firmly. "I'll explain later. Right now, trust me." They ran for the stairwell. More officers appeared below. Mizu led them upward instead. "To the roof," he shouted. Nina gasped for breath but kept running. They burst through the rooftop door. Wind blasted their faces. Below, the city blazed with sirens. Nina shouted, "Now what?" Mizu pointed to the next building, a narrow gap between rooftops. Nina stared at him in horror. "You're not serious," Isabel screamed. "Mizu, no!" But officers were already storming the stairwell. Gun barrels emerged behind them. Mizu grabbed Nina's hand. "Jump!" He leapt first, landing hard but safe. "Your turn," he shouted. Nina, shaking violently, backed up, then ran and jumped with a terrified scream. Mizu caught her hands and pulled her over. Isabel stood frozen on the other side. "Mizu, I can't." "You can," he shouted. Officers burst onto the rooftop behind her. Gunshots rang out. Isabel screamed and finally jumped. Mizu grabbed her arms midair and pulled her safely over. Nina collapsed in relief. Isabel stared at him, breathless. "Mizu, you're insane." He gave a tired half smile. "I've had a rough week." The three fled across the rooftop maze. But officers were closing in from every direction. This time, there was no easy escape route. Mizu scanned the rooftops desperately. Then, he spotted it. A maintenance cable running across to a warehouse roof. It wasn't meant for people, which made it perfect. He grabbed the pulley attached to the cable. "Nina, you first." Nina stared at the cable in disbelief. "That's not safe. Neither is staying here." Nina grabbed the pulley with trembling hands. Okay, I hate this." She kicked off the ledge and zipped across, screaming. Isabel followed, gripping the pulley for dear life. Mizu went last. Officers burst onto the roof just as he launched. Bullets flew past him. One grazed his shoulder, tearing fabric and skin. He gritted his teeth but held on. He landed roughly beside the two women. Nina grabbed his arm. "Hey, Mizu, you're bleeding." He wiped the blood away. "I'll live." Sirens wailed closer behind them. Mizu pointed at a cluster of warehouses. "This way, we're not safe yet."